Real Estate 101 with Boyle Team Real Estate.
Hello everyone, it's Marlene Boyle here from Boyle Team Real Estate, and we're here with our next podcast, which is our Buyers Series, episode 3, and we're doing a talk on title insurance. And we are very fortunate to have two wonderful guests here with us today. Mark Armstrong from MBAA Law, and Mark is a real estate lawyer with the firm. And we also have Katie Bailie from First Canadian Title Company. She's the business manager. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you as well for sharing all your information today.
Thanks for having us.
So, Katie, can you tell us a little bit about your past, your history, your experience with everything title insurance?
Absolutely. So I've been with FCT, First Canadian Title Insurance Company Limited, for 13 years now. My main focus is residential real estate, and I specifically work mostly with real estate lawyers.
Okay.
So helping lawyers navigate title insurance and how it protects their clients. I also spend a lot of time educating real estate agents on title fraud and how title insurance can help facilitate closings for their clients. Prior to FCT, I was a real estate law clerk, so I was in Mark's world, which actually helps us to work so closely together today.
That's a great background.
Yeah.
It's very good. And Katie is absolutely wonderful because I was at one of her courses a few years ago, and she definitely knows her stuff. And then Mark, you're with
Yes,
MBAA Law.
I've been working as a lawyer for 10 years now, and I work with my father, Mike, and we have another lawyer in the office, Alex. We primarily focus on real estate, but we do corporate law, employment law, and estate law, and we're located in Oshawa.
Sounds great. So we deal a lot with Mark, and their law firm is absolutely wonderful as well. So let's get into the questions here. So Katie, what is title insurance?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, I've been in this field for 13 years, and some of my closest friends still don't know exactly what I sell.
Yeah.
And it has been relevant in Canada for almost 20 years. But the reality is purchasers don't know what it is and how it protects them. They know that they need to obtain a title insurance policy in order for their deal to close, but that's about it. So title insurance is a policy that you typically obtain at the time you purchase a home.
Okay.
It's a one-time purchase and it stays with you for as long as you own that property. And it actually provides the homeowner with 27 heads of coverage.
Okay.
So a lot of these covered title risks are pertaining to title related issues, but it also provides some coverage for non-title related issues.
Okay.
A few examples would be taxes unpaid by the prior owner, encroachments, easements, survey defects, and of course the big and very relevant coverage today is title fraud.
Title fraud, yes, that's definitely relevant today. So when you say survey issues, this title insurance doesn't specifically cover lot line issues?
That's correct. So for survey coverage, essentially what we are going to protect the homeowner for is at the time of closing, if there is no up-to-date survey obtained for the property, if after closing there is an issue that is discovered and it would have been revealed had an up-to-date survey been obtained, there's coverage under the title insurance policy for that issue, with a few exceptions.
Okay, and we won't go into specifics. So there is some lot line issue coverage then?
That's correct.
Okay, but it's very limited?
Yep, we'll see a lot of issues pertaining to restricted access. Again, encroachments is a big one, easements as well, and some of these things would have been discovered had an up-to-date survey been obtained at the time of closing.
I think, for example, like a shed encroaching on the neighbor's lawn, and the neighbor comes over and says, you need to remove your shed back onto your property.
Right.
We didn't know about it because the client was not aware of it because they didn't have an up-to-date survey.
Okay, so they would deal with that. And I also know they would deal with if somebody's, for instance, put on a deck or put on a sunroom and they haven't got a permit. Is it correct that title insurance will cover some of those issues as well?
Yes, we actually had a recent claim where purchasers bought a home and they moved in, and after closing, the city informed them that not only did they have to remove the new deck that was built, but they actually had to remove the entire pool.
Oh, wow.
So this was something that was actually covered by the title insurance policy, and the cost to rectify the issue was over $70,000.
Wow.
So a very extensive title insurance
Yes.
claim, but yes, because they were being forced to remove and remedy the situation by the city, it was something that was covered under the policy.
So in that case, do they actually have to remove it and then get a permit and put it back? No, they wouldn't do that. They would actually just pay for permits back.
You know what, it's on a case by case. We're always going to look at not necessarily what's the cheapest solution, but it's what's best fit to the homeowners and what's going to comply with the city's requirements as well.
So the city may still have to remove it,
That's
but then they get coverage for what they would have lost. Their
Exactly.
loss. Now, is there a maximum coverage that title insurance covers?
Yes. So the amount of coverage is the purchase price of the home or the assessed value of the property.
Okay.
So if you're buying a house at $500,000 today, you obtain a title insurance policy based on the $500,000 purchase price.
Okay, so the client can't say, I want more coverage like regular insurance, I'm gonna up my premium.
We do have an option for homeowners to increase their coverage
Okay.
by way of an endorsement that is added to the title insurance policy. That is something that Mark's fabulous law clerks will do for the client at the time they order the title insurance policy.
Okay.
But built into every standard title insurance policy, we actually have 200% inflation coverage as well. So as the property value increases, so does the amount of the coverage, up to 200%.
Okay, so as our house prices are rising, it's automatically included.
That's correct.
So Mark, do you see a lot of this increase, like people wanting to do an endorsement?
We are starting to see more of it as you hear about fraud in the
Yeah.
news. And we also recognize it if we have a refinance coming in and we realize that they don't have title insurance. So we do get questions periodically, and our first call would be to the title insurance company and find out information about it. And then
Okay.
we go back to the client and address it with them and see if they want to pay for the coverage. 99% of the time they want to pay for the coverage.
Okay. Okay, so that's interesting, I didn't know that, so you can do that. And then the encroachments and easements, same thing, if there's an encroachment on the property, how would that be resolved?
Yeah, so one thing to remember when it pertains to title insurance, you know, you can't just move into a property and say, oh, I don't like where this shed is located, or I don't love that my driveway isn't, 3 feet wider, or...
That's big issue is the driveway.
Absolutely. So in order to trigger coverage, the client needs to be suffering a loss or has to be forced to remedy the
Okay.
issue. So whether that be the city issuing an order to comply or something from a government response, they can't just make a title insurance claim until they are actually suffering a loss, and that
Okay.
loss is covered under the title
Okay.
insurance policy.
Okay, no, that makes sense. And then actually, I remember from your course, and correct me if I'm wrong, if somebody knows about the issue beforehand, it's not covered, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So the issue has to be unknown at the time of closing.
Okay.
In order for there to be coverage under the policy. They can still get a title insurance policy if there's a known
Right.
issue, but there may be an exception
Okay.
placed.
But it wouldn't cover what if somebody's disclosed that to
That's correct.
Okay, what about like leaky basements or something like inside the house?
I'm sure you get a lot of claims or clients inquiring about making a title insurance claim for these things.
Yeah, and typically it falls under the breach of contract avenue or some sort of latent defect avenue.
Okay.
I don't believe there's much coverage for a leaky basement or anything.
Okay, so it's
we
more
kind of
of a-
redirect them. Now, when it's questionable, we discuss it with the client, and sometimes we're on that fine line, and maybe it will be considered by title insurance. So we will always ask the question. I mean, we probably inquire more than we need to,
Yes,
but we do it so that we have certainty with the client. because sometimes we'll try and argue it under one of the provisions.
Right.
And they'll say no, but then we may find it may fall on another provision under the title insurance policy.
Okay.
And sometimes there's a bit of confusion between the home insurance policy and the title insurance policy.
I can see that.
So if it's, the roof, or something to do with the structure of the home, clients will come to Mark and Mark will, direct them to their home insurance versus the
Makes
title
sense.
insurance. Yeah.
Now, I specialize a lot, our team specializes a lot in country property. What about well, septic? Are there any type of title insurance coverages on those?
Yes, so we do have coverage for septic. There are some additional requirements by the lawyer.
Okay.
But when the lawyer is ordering the title insurance policy, it's always a question that we ask. So is the property on municipal water and sewer? And that will help us to determine what kind of coverage we need to provide to the owner.
Okay.
Now, it's not necessarily going to provide coverage for the working use of the septic, so of course we always recommend that your clients, if they have the ability to, get a full inspection.
Right, I understand.
Yeah.
So, okay, so there's obviously limited coverage there. Now, there's also mortgage title insurance for the lender.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit on that? I know it's mandatory if you have a mortgage.
That's correct. So a homeowner policy is for the homeowner, and then we also issue a lender policy every time a new mortgage is taken out on that property.
Okay.
So the lender policy only lasts for as long as that mortgage is in place. And then if the client decides to do a refinance, they're going to have to get a new title insurance policy for the new lender on title.
Okay.
Now, that title insurance policy is just going to protect the interest and the priority of the loan on title. Another big benefit of the protection for lenders is obviously the fraud
The
coverage.
fraud, yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on the fraud, since that's such a hot topic right now?
Yes, of course. So, we're hearing about title fraud happening out there in the market. We definitely see some common themes when it comes to title fraud. It typically happens in major urban areas, but we do see it kind of trickling into more rural areas today. It's usually backed by organized crime, and typically what happens is a fraudster will impersonate an actual owner, so they will steal their identity. They will forge their signatures and have title transferred to their name, and they will either obtain a mortgage or sell the property and abscond with the proceeds.
Yeah, we see that from our end as well. Like, one of the things we're trying to do is make sure we verify identification under the Law Society rules. And sometimes you'll see a passport read a little different than a driver's license. Hopefully you don't. Then you have to do further inquiries. We also call the other lawyer, the real estate agents, to make sure that they are legit.
Right.
And we'll even look them up in the Law Society just to make sure we verify that they're in good standing.
They are who they are.
Yeah, and the one thing that we always get the question: can you make this payment to this third party? And we have no evidence to make that payment. So it's always sometimes a contentious issue with the client, but we always try to make it to the person registered on time.
Okay, so question, if somebody, because obviously it only started 20 years ago, so if somebody owns a house, say 30 or more years ago, and they don't have title insurance, are they able to obtain it?
Yes. So a very popular question that we are getting today, because title fraud is such a relevant topic. So how can, especially elderly clients, they've owned their home for a long time, and not only do they not have title insurance, but they have a lot of equity in their home. So they want to protect that equity. We know that properties that are free and clear of any encumbrances are highly targeted by fraudsters. So yes, an existing homeowner policy is a product offered by FCT. And what your clients can do, or what you can recommend your family members or friends that own an existing property can do, is contact the real estate lawyer, contact Mark, and he can assist them in obtaining that existing homeowner policy. The great thing about an existing homeowner policy is it does provide coverage dating back to when they purchased the home. So they're going to get full coverage at the assessed value of the property today. And once that policy is in place, it's going to be with them for as long as they own the home.
Wow, okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah,
So,
we get a number of questions about, should we put a line of credit or a mortgage on our property?
yes,
To protect against fraud. Well, the main answer is your best bet is to get title insurance. Because, line of credit, fees, costs, things like that. But title insurance will cover things, in the future that a lawyer's opinion may not, and it's a lot more secure than I think any other method.
Yep. And the reality is, they can get a line of credit, but we're actually seeing a lot of fraudulent second mortgages being placed on title. So even if you have a mortgage in first priority or a line of credit, just to give you that protection and absorb some of the, loan to value, there's still a risk that a private second mortgage could fraudulently be placed on title.
And you're seeing a lot of fraudsters nowadays. They can do it with or without a mortgage registered on title. It's fraud. They're very smart about this.
They're fraudsters. They figure it out.
Yeah, it's very
not 100%
sophisticated.
protection, and I'm not sure title insurance is either, but it's the best protection, I think, for the client, in our opinion.
Yeah, I always say, protecting your identity is the first safeguard. So, making sure sensitive documents are shredded, making sure you're not a victim to spam emails, clicking links that are unknown to you,
Right.
All the things we hear, but sometimes we're not even sure that we are being 100% safe.
Yeah.
So doing all of those things to protect your own identity, and then of course, making sure you have a title insurance policy in place on your property.
Okay, so obviously you don't have to get title insurance. It's a voluntary thing. But if you don't have it, you own a home, you've owned it, call Mark, call your lawyer, and great idea to set it up, basically.
Yeah, it's a one-time premium. So, you get your title insurance policy in place. It's now there for as long as you own the home. If you do have a claim, it's a no-fault process. There's no deductible. So you really do pay a one-time premium, and then you just have that protection for as long as you own the home. There's no renewals, nothing like that on an annual basis. It is there for as long as you own the property.
Okay, and that's great to know. What about the cost is around, like I know you said it's per price of the home, roughly.
Yeah, so
it's so much per.
Yeah, so
or?
I would say if we're looking, today we don't really see anything under $500.
You're not getting a $500.
Exactly.
No, definitely.
Doesn't matter where you live.
Unfortunately,
yes. So it can range. I would say a title insurance policy in today's market would be anywhere from about $600 up to about $2,000, depending on the price. As well as, is there a mortgage on title? Is it a residential property? Is it a multi-unit? Is there a basement apartment? There's a few things that will add additional costs, but I would say anywhere between $600 and $1,500 for.
And that's a one-time fee. It's not a yearly fee.
That's correct.
Yeah, one-time
fee. I think the alternative to getting a solicitor's opinion. Doing all those searches and off title would be a lot more costly and more importantly time consuming. So when you have 2 weeks to do an agreement of purchase and sale, get the transaction closed, there's not always timing for that. Mm-hmm. And again, a solicitor's opinion is probably not as bulletproof as it would be for title insurance after closing, especially. I think an important thing to note is even though you're purchasing title insurance, you still have to have the client make a claim before the claim is actually accepted.
Okay.
Not every claim is accepted.
Okay.
So then you have to go back to the drawing board and find another resolution for the client.
And it would take, what's the time frame? I know obviously it would vary depending, but is it like, can it be done pretty quickly or does it usually take a year? Or?
So, if we're looking at tax claims, so
unpaid taxes, yes.
The prior owner paid their final bill, but it was paid by check and the check was returned to NSF and now there's an outstanding amount, which is not the responsibility of the new homeowner.
Right.
Those types of claims, because we see such a high volume, are turned around in about 3 to 5 business days. Those are very quick.
Okay.
Which is great for Mark. It provides a really nice seamless process for his clients. But if we're looking at fraud claims, we're talking about the police are involved in those types of claims handling scenarios, and they definitely take a lot longer. Same with some survey defects, because we do need to hire an adjuster, take some time to assess what the issue is and how we're going to resolve it. But I will say one thing about FCT and our claims paying ability, we're always looking for ways to provide coverage as opposed to deny it.
Right.
So
You're trying to work with your clients,
Exactly.
basically.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't go through you directly, right? I just want to clarify, they have to go through the lawyer.
Yeah, they
Right.
do have the option. If you ever visit our website, fct.ca, if you're an existing homeowner, you can actually obtain an existing homeowner policy directly from our website, as well as submit a claim. But of course, Mark and his staff have the knowledge. They also have access to all the pertinent documents that we will require in
Right.
order to initiate a claim. So
Yes.
it's best to
It's better to go through.
I think it varies in different law firms. I mean, you want to help the client out to a point, but then it gets to a point where it can be time consuming. From our perspective, we generally help the client out and show them the process
Right.
and how to handle it. Going back to the property tax issue, typically from a lawyer's point of view, we're always trying to call the lawyer on the other end to try and rectify the problem
Right.
before we submit a claim. But when we do submit a claim, and Katie's absolutely right, it's turned over pretty quick.
Yeah.
That is pretty quick. And then with the house closings happening so quick now, and everything, this house prices are going up, and there's a lot of extra things now on closings. I know Mark knows.
Yeah.
Do you guys help facilitate that if there's an issue right before close?
Yeah, and it's so great. We definitely choose to work with real estate lawyers that are experts in their field. So in a situation or a scenario where an issue arises before closing, Mark will pick up the phone, contact one of our underwriters, and we'll be able to look at ways that we can get this deal closed on time.
Okay.
We know that there's no 30 plus days anymore from the time you get the agreement of purchase
Yeah.
and sale to the closing date. So we're always looking at avenues to provide a better client experience while providing the best protection and getting the deals closed.
Perfect. That's great.
Yeah.
Good to know that.
Yeah.
Mark, back to the process. Can you explain the process when the client comes to your office? How
Yeah,
you...
typically what we do in our office is we'll send out an opening letter just mentioning title insurance and kind of give them an idea of what it's about. And then we'll look at the property, take the agreement of purchase and sale, and submit an application for title insurance. And then the client will come into our office and we'll review the disadvantages and the advantages of having title insurance, and we'll outline the cost. And then they'll have some questions, and I usually explain a few examples, property tax being one, because it's our number one claim, I
Common,
guess.
yeah.
It's very common, same with utilities. Then, most of the time the client wants to purchase it and
To
move
purchase.
forward. And, I think one of the main things I always want to make clear in our meetings is it's not a replacement for a survey. When we do think it's very important, because most of the time in real estate, residential anyhow, you're not always getting that up-to-date survey.
Right,
And or are you looking at the building surveys or the things that are on the land that
Yeah.
could cause an issue? So we do explain that coverage, and then once they're satisfied, we move on. And if there's an issue before closing, we'll call FCT, the title insurance company, and they're very responsive so that we can get full clarity before we close the deal.
Yeah. To Mark's point, title insurance isn't going to provide protection for future use. So for an agent, if you're walking around a property with your potential buyers and they are talking about knocking down this wall and this addition
Yes.
and building this garage, you absolutely want to recommend they get an up-to-date survey so that they know what they have to work with,
Right.
and that they will be able to do the things that they dream of doing with that property that they want to buy.
Now, question, can they be denied title insurance?
That is a great question, and the answer is yes, for a multitude of reasons. Now, in today's climate, because fraud is such a relevant thing, of course our underwriters have tightened their belts a little bit, and we are absolutely asking more questions to identify frauds before they happen. FCT is so lucky we have a certified fraud examiner, Marie Taylor, on our team.
Okay.
And our lawyers love that she is behind every single one of their deals because she really is a second set of eyes.
Okay.
So there will be scenarios where maybe there's too many fraud flags on that transaction, and we cannot get to a comfort level to provide the fraud coverage on that deal.
Right.
Now, it doesn't happen very often, but if it does, it's usually a scenario where all parties involved in the transaction are in agreement that may be best to not proceed. But yeah, we definitely
So you can deny.
We have had scenarios where we've denied coverage.
What are some of the red flags, Mark, that you see?
There's a number of them. I won't get into all of them, but when you see a person come in with different ID, someone coming in and again, I mentioned it earlier, payment to a third party, they're adamant that it has to go to a third party that you don't even realize who it is. Power of attorneys sometimes are done, and they were done a week before the closing.
That would make sense.
And then
raises that rate. Right?
Yeah, I mean, a big red flag to us, we do a lot of investigating in terms of if we're not getting a call back from a lawyer, we're not getting something from a mortgage, we realized right away there's something fishy about this, and so we try to do our due diligence that way, and there's a number of other red flags. Going back to whether a title insurance policy would be denied or not. When we see that, there's sometimes that we see too many red flags, and we'll advise the client to seek other legal advice.
Okay.
We won't refer them out, we'll just ask them to seek other legal advice, and just to cover our butt. There's so much out there nowadays.
I agree.
With power of attorneys, especially it's so easy to obtain a POA document off the internet. So we've seen a lot of forged power of attorney documents. So when a property is being sold by way of power of attorney, we will actually ask to see a copy of that document. And furthermore, we do often contact the vendor's solicitor to ask a few additional questions. So again, just a part of our underwriting process to detect the fraud before it happens. When we see certain types of transactions, we do additional undertaking measures.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds great. So do you have, I don't know if you want to kind of summarize or recommend anything to the general public as far as title insurance? I think we've pretty much covered.
Yep, I've been doing this for quite some time, and I think my biggest recommendation to anybody out there that's either looking for a real estate lawyer, a real estate agent, whatever it may be, you want to work with experts in their field. Okay, so it's not about finding the lawyer with the cheapest fees.
I agree.
It is a very competitive market, so I don't think if you shop around, you will find that their fees are all competitive. But it's going to save you a lot of headache and a lot of time if you are going with a lawyer that knows what they are doing, has the staff that can accommodate every different type of transaction. There's no cookie cutter deals today. They all seem to have a little something. So partnering with a lawyer that is an expert and will provide you with that full service package. And from a title insurance perspective, we see it the same way. We don't deal with every single lawyer across the province. We're a little more selective, and we want to partner with lawyers that are the best in what they do. So partnering with a great real estate lawyer, that they're going to be backed by the protection of the title insurance company they partner with. That is my biggest piece of advice.
Okay, that's wonderful news. And we partner with MBAA law as well.
I think it works, when we look at our clients, it's very important that they're using a real estate agent that knows what they're doing, Marlene, like yourself. And one of the biggest things with MBAA law, we've used a number of, there's 4 different title insurance companies, and we've used all 4 of them.
Okay.
And we built a relationship with Katie and her team. And when it comes down to a problem, it's very important to have that relationship. And it's important to have the relationship with the bank. And the client should know, that there are relationships there. And if they can build relationships with each other, then everybody can work together to resolve the problem.
Yeah, and even adding the mortgage agent in as well, those relationships are very important, I agree, for our clients.
Absolutely.
To protect them. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Do you have anything else to add in, Mark, that you would kind of recommend?
No, I think we have Katie did a great job explaining title insurance. Again, maybe I'll leave it with this. I always say it to the clients, title insurance is not a replacement for a survey.
Okay, sounds great.
Yep.
Well, thank you again for participating and sharing your great wealth of knowledge, both of you. And I thank you everybody for watching, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.